This time we'll call the meeting back to order. I see we have some Boy Scouts here. If you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you don't mind, come up. Thank you very much. We'll move forward with roll call.
Councilmember Friend.
Here.
Councilmember Scatini.
Here.
Mayor Velasquez.
Here.
Councilmember Valdivia.
Here.
Councilmember Gomez.
Here.
City Manager Avra.
Present.
City Attorney Sullivan.
Here.
Chief of Police Westrick.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. City Attorney, is there anything you want to report out?
Yes, directions. We had a closed session on the matter of the Hollister firefighters beginning of negotiations. Instructions were given to Mr. Lindsay Daniel, who will be starting negotiations with the Employees Union, Employees Association on June 12th.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's move forward with item A, consent resolution. Are there any items from the public?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and before you do that, let me just tell you that the agenda was posted for the meeting of June 2nd on the bulletin board at City Hall on May 28th at 1:45 p.m. for Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you. I guess I missed that. All right, item A. There are speakers on what items?
Yes, I have item A6, A7, A8, A9, A10, A11, and then on down to B1.
B1. Are there any other items from the council? No other items?
I make a motion that we approve all items except for A6 through 11.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0 vote. Move forward with item A6.
Keith Snow. By David Rubsick has the microphone out there. There he comes. Okay. No, wait, David, the microphone to Mr. Snow, please.
Hello, Council. It's about the kids on A6. So I was wondering, I'll get that for our kids, our future, and I'm for that.
Okay, is there a motion on, is there any other questions from council? Is there a motion on A6? So move.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries 5-0 vote. A7.
Keith Snow.
And that one too, I want to, okay, too.
Mr. Snow, if you have a question about one of these items, that's why we pulled these from the agenda.
I know that, I'm saying I want to okay it on the agenda. Thank you.
It's on the agenda, so if you do have a question, feel free to call out for it, but if not, please, we have to move through on business tonight. Thank you very much. Is there a motion on?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. A8.
Keith Snow.
And that one too, A8 about the veteran thing, right? So let's go there too, right?
Do you have a specific question,
Okay.
Mr. Snow?
My question is, last week between Victor, you, and watch on TV, because I can't find no parking, and then this, right? And it's about $12,000, $8 for veterans bill, vets bill, right? And you guys, because you guys are confused. You guys are very confused. Council, not to bash you, right? But it's very embarrassing for the city. I support our veterans, 1%. And the veterans are saying, that's okay, $5,000. That's nothing. You don't owe $12,000. Because one thing, the vets bill, like I said, they sell beer and for the Ulster background, and so 6 sandwiches. So points, right? I'm very knowledgeable. I know what's going on in the city, right?
Mr. Snow, do you have a specific question, please?
Okay, well, I'm saying what you guys can do.
That's what we're up here to decide on.
Okay, well, then what, I'm the citizen, right? So then what, as, one thing that you guys, I've been
Mr. Snow, a
noticing,
specific question, please.
okay, are you guys gonna be like the county, Victor, right? Because for a fact,
Mr. Snow, thank you very much.
you guys are confused.
Is there a motion on item A8?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries, 5-0 vote. A9. Again, Mr. Snow, please, with a specific question you have so we can answer that question for you.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, this is Marty Richmond?
On item A9?
Yes, A9.
Thank you, Mr. Richmond.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'd like to, I have no specific objection to the arrangement in A9. We've done it before, but I would like to make some constructive criticisms of things we should be doing with these arrangements. One of them is that I would like to see, and I would hope that you would agree, to get the staff to put some kind of estimate of when we might recover these funds. That we put these funds out in advance. This has nothing to do with paying the people who do the work. We need to pay the people who do the work. That's obvious. But we put the funds out in advance, and it would be good for the council to see how close we can predict when we're going to get that money back. I understand it's only an estimate, but you know, you sharpen your estimates by making them in public and then seeing how you did. So I would like in the future to see that. Another thing I would like you to do is to set up a formal structure to make sure that when you do sell this back to a developer, you get the cost of the money that you've invested in it, because that money would have been sitting somewhere drawing interest for this city and its citizens. And that money belongs to the citizens. If you invest it into a sewer line, you take all the risk of when it's going to be used by the next developer. And if you sell it back at the same price that you put in it, you're getting taken for the difference. This third item is related to that. The last one about making sure you get the interest applies to both public use and private use, because somebody would have to pay for it. The next one only applies to private use, and that is, if you invest in this sewer line, and again, I have no objection to it if you think it's a good investment, but if you invested it in 2014 dollars, and it takes 10 years before somebody comes along and wants to buy that line, they're not, if they had to put it in themselves, they wouldn't be able to pay for it with 2014 dollars. They'd be paying for it with 2024 dollars. And the city should be getting some extra funding back, because we took all the risk. We invested the money. If the developments don't happen, we're stuck with the big sewer line and no one to use it. So therefore, I think that it would be a good way for the city to make sure we got our money's worth. I don't want to make a profit on anybody, but what is fair, and that money would be drawing interest and has other ways. So I think that can improve the program. It will take some time to put that together in the long run, but I think it would make it easier to do in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions from council?
Mr. Mayor, I have other speakers' cards.
You do?
Sorry. Christine Breen.
Good evening, council members. I just wanted to raise the issue that I don't think that this is properly before the council tonight. Proper notice was not given. I'm here on behalf of my clients, Alex and Ingrid Sywick, and the notice provisions of the municipal code at 16.24.190. Proper notice was not provided in compliance with that code section.
Okay. City Attorney?
No, this reimbursement agreement has been available for their review since the matter was posted this past week. And then, I mean, and you're not a party to the agreement. I mean, I don't understand what the issue then is.
Ms. Freen?
The code section actually requires that written notice of the hearing shall be given to the subdivider and those who own property within the proposed area of benefit as shown on the latest equalized assessment roll, and to the potential users of the supplemental improvements insofar as they can be ascertained at the time. Such notices shall be mailed by the clerk at least 10 days prior to the date established for hearing.
Right.
And that wasn't provided.
And you are not in that, or your client is not in that. Your client would like to be, and that's what the discussion has been for some months or years. But the supplemental areas are, he would like to be included in that. He's not in that supplemental area.
But that's not what the code requires. Code requires that notice be provided to anyone in the proposed area of benefit as shown on the assessment rolls and to potential users of the supplemental improvements.
Your client does not even have an application on file.
I believe that we are in the annexation process. They are a potential user of the supplemental improvements. And
It's not
proper
shown in
notice
the-
was
in-
not issued.
By the engineer, by the city engineer. If we wanted to defer this, oh, go ahead.
Could I just get it? I went by actually on the, if you
He has
look at that.
actual notice.
If you look at that agenda.
Sir,
item,
let's have your attorney speak on the matter, so.
Well, I think he submitted a card as well, but, I mean,
Is there another card? Okay, so why don't we
But let me
wrap it
just-
with you and we can.
yeah, I'll wrap up. The code requires written notice, 10 days. It wasn't given.
Okay,
It doesn't require actual parties. It requires potential users of the supplemental improvements. He's a potential user.
Right.
He did not receive written notice, which is what the code requires, so it's not properly before the council tonight.
perfect. Thank you very much.
Ingrid Zywak?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I am deferring my 3 minutes to my husband, Alex Siwak. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I also thought that we should have gotten notice. Our parcel is called Natmar. It is in the 10 or 11 parcel formulation that is following page 6 of Exhibit B in package A9. It's difficult to read because the 2 feet by 3 feet plan sheet has been reduced down, so it's illegible. I went to the city engineering department this afternoon. They gave me a 11 by 17 printout. We are Natmar. We are in that. We're required to pay 3.4%. I don't believe any other member of the parcels in that formula was also noticed. We first became aware of this reimbursement agreement when we read it on the internet when the agenda was posted last Thursday. In the short period of time we had to understand this agreement, we're concerned about the following items apart from the notice. The City Council is being asked to approve a cash reimbursement of $655,000 to BMC for something that is estimated to cost BMC $320,400 to install. The city's own engineer estimates it will cost $320,000 to install these sewer extensions, and that's in item A1, Exhibit A1 of Agenda Item A10, under B2, Offsite Improvements Sanitary Sewer System. The City Council is being asked to approve a cash payment of $334,000 to BMC for their efforts and supervision in providing this extension. This amount is over and above the actual estimated cost to install the extension. This cash payment of $334,000 is justified by aggregating such categories as soft costs, hard costs, work, administrative burden, etc. No basis for the derivation of these amounts is provided. The City Council has had these amounts provided to them and is going to approve them. They should also be made available to the public, and particularly the people that are going to be encumbered by these amounts. The administrative burden is particularly abusive. The City Council is being asked to approve a fee of 20% on all the other costs of the sewer extension. In fact, after the city reimburses BMC for all categories and expenditures, the City Council is being asked to pay BMC $109,000 for their, according to them, construction, management, and related administrative services under this agreement. Over the past 25 years, my wife and I have developed a number of parcels in the city. Whenever we had to do something outside to the neighboring parcels and that the city was to be reimbursed for, the formula there was whatever the actual costs of that improvement were that was outside of our parcels, 10% would be added to it and the city would reimburse us that amount. Applying this same principle to this case, the amount would currently stand at $324,000 plus 10%. The current terms obligate the city to pay $655,000 for a sewer extension that the city estimates will cost $320,000. The city will have to wait and collect the remaining $476,000 whenever the other parcels develop. The current resolution provides BMC to walk away with $156,000 in cash with their share of the sewer percentage paid for, including the extra burden of the multifamily units that are in their 18 acres. The remaining parcels in the sewer benefit area will be saddled with a more than 100% upcharge over the actual sewer installation charge. And the whole sewer extension is for the benefit of BMC's development. BMC chose this sewer extension over the lift station option. BMC was aware of this issue and would have identified such in their feasibility study before purchasing the parcel. It was part of their business plan.
Sir, if I can have the engineer speak on it. We got your point on this, but let's move forward with the engineer so we can hear what they have to say.
And I simply want to add that I'd like my written statement, which I wasn't able to complete, to be part of the record.
Please, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the total cost for the project is estimated with administrative costs, is estimated to be $655,000. Of that, BMC would be reimbursed the total minus 27.20% of the final construction cost, or about 178,000. 160. So they would get the remainder of about $476,000, which equates to about $2,200 a lot for their project. This reimbursement agreement is a result of a collaborative, out of the box thinking. The original plan was for the subdivider to install a sewer lift station. After going through the process, and the tentative maps specifically says that the subdivider would be installing either a lift station or another means of transmitting sewer to the city's main collection system. It was deemed that a lift station is not really a good solution for this project. It's something that's cost a lot of money. It's something that requires a high cost for maintenance, and something that the city would have to come to some kind of an agreement for maintenance of this of the lift station. The idea of putting a sanitary sewer up San Benito Street is something that all the properties along San Benito Street Extension will be able to benefit from, including Mr. Siwak's properties. The line will go up San Benito Street to Promise. It will go into their subdivision, and then a project that's currently in the process of being annexed, south of Southside Road, will be able to utilize this as well. There are a number of properties that are proposed to be able to tie into this project. One of the great benefits of this is that it will provide an opportunity for those properties along San Miguel Street to realize a potential development. Of course, they would have to be annexed into the city. We're not providing them a sewer service. We're providing them an area that they can go into. They all would be paying into the same benefit area. The benefit area is based on the area of each parcel, and like it's indicated in the maps, the Rakovich project is contributing over 27%, and Mr. Siwak's project would be contributing 3.4% of the total cost. And so it actually equates to, get back to it, about $9,800 an acre for those areas that are being developed. Of course, these are estimated costs. It's the actual construction cost that would be reimbursed, and that will be determined, and we'll bring that supplemental appropriation back to you when that is known for approval of reimbursement to the developer.
Okay. Councilmember Friend?
So in the resolution A10 or A9, I'm not sure which one we're talking about.
It's A9.
On A10, if it's passed as written,
We're talking about item A9?
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about?
on we're talking about A9 now. not
We are A9.
I thought A9 was ruled not before us properly. I thought we couldn't take action on A9.
I think, go ahead, Rick.
What was the question?
Well, are we talking about A9?
Yes.
Yes. A9 is, and Ms. Breen raised a notice issue. We checked while she was speaking. Notice had not been given. And so I would recommend that this be brought back on the 16th, and that the city engineer give notice to the people within the district. A10 is a different matter. That is asking for financial security to be provided to assure the improvements in the tentative map are actually corrected. I mean, I'm summarizing it.
That's correct.
Yes. But this matter, if you have any questions, we will be bringing it back in 2 weeks, or that'd be my recommendation. And that, but if you have any questions on it now, and want to make further suggestions or instructions about the information that you would like from myself or city engineer, we can try.
Isn't A9 providing the financing and protection for A10 also? Aren't we talking about the same sewer line extension and the same subdivision that's going to reap the benefits?
Same
of both these?
subdivision.
It's the same subdivider who is bringing both items to, who we're bringing both items to the city council for. Item A9 is for the sewer reimbursement. And there is alternatives for the subdivider. It would take some time and for those to be, for those alternatives to be realized, such as bringing back the lift station. Item A10 is for the subdivision improvement agreement and authorization and approval of that subdivision. They stand on their own. They don't necessarily, does one, need the other to survive.
Okay, then my question is on A10. I'll wait.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions from council?
Yeah, I have a question. You said, correct me if I'm wrong, you said there's $9,800 per acre?
$9,800 per acre is what the estimated
Estimated.
cost is, yes.
Are you pretty certain about that estimation?
The estimate is derived from the engineer.
Say that again?
The estimate was provided to the city of Hollister by the design engineer. That is where we normally get engineers' estimates for the project. We went over the estimate, we reviewed it, and we actually made a couple changes so that it is acceptable to the engineering department.
Okay, but you don't know for sure it's 9,800.
No, the final number will be determined once the actual construction cost has been determined, and that will be at the end of the construction of the sewer line.
I see, okay, thank you.
Councilmember Valdivia?
Yeah, I have a question in terms of, we're going to be bringing this back. What I would like to see is a detailed spreadsheet or something in terms of the cost. The 600, okay, the 600 and what, 655,000 versus 320,400. That's a big difference.
Well, the $655,000 is the estimated total cost of the project with the soft cost and engineering and everything else associated with that. The $476,000, that is the amount estimated to be reimbursed to BMC Promise LLC, or the developers of the Rakovich property. So they're responsible for $178,000 of that $655,000 cost. They are paying their fair share for the dollar amount. So $655,000 is the estimated total cost for the entire project. We would be reimbursing them $476,840 based on the current estimate, for which would be less their participating cost to the project. So the numbers, there is no real difference between the $655,000 and the $476,000. That's because you add the $178,000, and that's where it would equal the $655,000.
Part of the confusion may be because of one of the speakers. The developer is putting the money up first, the entire amount, whatever it may be. So the amount reimbursed depends on how much they actually spent.
Yeah.
So we are putting an estimate on it. We are going to be paying them back in the form of either cash or credits toward connection fees. But they are advancing the money, not the city. And there may be some confusion because of one of the speakers.
But they're only advancing the money for a short time.
Right.
We're going to be carrying the money for a long time.
Correct. But
So
one of the options, true, is that that the other connection fees and expenses they have, that they can take them as credits. So there again, they would be making the payments.
Okay, Councilmember Gomez, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions right now, but I will have some between now and the...
Okay, I think we had another speaker.
Michael Caddy?
Good evening, council members. Michael Cady. I'm with BMC UCP. We're the developer. Let's straighten out all the facts on this. When we were processing the Rakovich property, we were looking at whatever sort of sewer improvements we needed to, infrastructure we needed to put in to service our project. The city and staff recognize that, hey, Rakovich is not the only piece that's going. Lad Lane's going. Dr. Siwak's going to move forward. So let's look at an overall solution, and would you be guys willing to put in an overall solution at one time to benefit your project and more? And so that's when we came to the solution on San Benito Street, okay? So we have paid for all of the engineering, the civil engineering. We've paid for all of the joint trench engineering. We are going to build the entirety of the project, cash out of our pocket. The $655,000 is simply an estimate, just like the estimates we use for our subdivision improvement agreements and the bonds that I provide to the city. The agreement calls it's based on actual cost, so I'm going to have to come up with invoices and copies and receipts of my checks. And the reimbursement in the agreement does talk about cash or credits. Most likely, we're going to take it in fee credits, which means the city's not carrying me. I'm going to get credit on my Rakovich property for my sewer fees that are due for that. So I certainly understand the sensitivity, but I feel like we're kind of taking an obligation on that's bigger than just for our project. We've been in the community. We just finished building 42 units here. I paid probably over $2 million in fees within the last year and a half to the city. So, and I got other projects in front of me. So I will do the right thing because I have future projects in front of you. So there's nothing fast and easy happening here. My preference would probably not to do it, but it's a benefit to all, and we're gonna do it, and we're gonna live up to the agreement. But we need to do it in a way that we can all also make our project financially feasible. So if there's any questions, I'm here for you.
Any questions from council? Let me ask you, you said preference is not to do it. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think anytime you've got a project, you want to minimize your costs, right? I have a certain amount of lots, just like Dr. Siwak has a certain amount of lots. So we're fronting costs that we traditionally don't do. I think this is an overall win-win situation for everybody, including the city and the future developers. I know Ward Homes is doing Lad Lane. I think they're very happy that the extension's coming that way, because I think it's a better solution for the city, other than a solution that just satisfies my project.
So your fronting costs, how would you be doing this project if you weren't going to San Benito Street?
Originally, we talked about going down Cienega. We also talked about doing a pump station along our parcel A, which again is just it's a solution that staff didn't like because it just served my project, and there's other projects coming down the line that they thought there was a grander project that was more efficient for all involved and what would not just benefit my project.
But that option would be more expensive to you, correct? For the lift
No.
station? No.
Lift station, I think, was $150,000 to $200,000.
Okay.
And so my fair share on this one is close to $200,000. On top of that, I'm putting $650,000 or whatever the amount, maybe. You want to cap it, you can cap it. I mean, again, we're not looking to make money on this.
Are you willing to carry the cost of these
You mean a non-cash reimbursement?
for a while?
Yeah, I'll do fee reimbursements. If that makes you comfortable, I'm more than happy to take care of it through fee reimbursements. Obviously, I'm going to probably have more cost than fees, so I think the agreement contemplates me being able to extend that credit to future projects, so I'm willing to do that, yes.
Oh. Well, I think we heard from you. We're going to have to
Dr.
move forward
Sirek
on
wants
this.
to pay for all of it right now. I'm happy to do that, too.
Okay.
I'll be happy to pay for
Mr.
the
Doctor?
actual cost of construction.
Doctor.
Not an extra 105%.
Dr. Siwak, please.
Would you like to pay for the engineering?
Sir,
That's
both
what
of
you pay
you,
for?
please.
I thought
The
this
council
item-
is up here if you have a question directed to the council, a statement to the council,
I
okay?
I
Now,
apologize.
I think there's a question from Councilmember Scutini.
I don't know if I want to follow that act or not. Mr. Roopstick said that the lift station would be very expensive and very expensive to maintain. Am I correct on that? I'm directing my question to you, Dave. Didn't you allude to that?
Yes, and we anticipate that maintenance on a lift station would be an expensive proposition.
Yeah.
We already have 4 lift stations in the city. Unfortunately, I can't tell you what the cost for maintaining those are, but it is equipment that would have to be replaced after so many years. Most likely within a 20-year period, the pumps would have to be replaced. And there is even a possibility that additional sewer connections may be made to that lift station, in which it's possible that the lift station would have to be replaced in its entirety completely.
Right, and that would be the city's responsibility?
The cost for upgrading from the existing lift station, we would be responsible for that part, because whoever would require the upgrading would most likely be paying their incremental share. And one of the things we would look at for the design is any future connections to it, but with the hope that we wouldn't have to redo the entire lift station. But it is a possibility, and there would be yearly maintenance and yearly costs associated with that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from council? I think what we have to do here is make a motion to table this for a future meeting. Is there a motion from council?
So,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0 vote.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move forward to item A10.
Dr. Alex Iwak.
Thank you. This is related to the improvement plans for the Rakovich parcel. I request that the City Council approve the improvement plans for this project on condition that BMC agrees to install a sewer line as part of their required frontage improvement for Cienega. The city staff has already determined that such a sewer line would have to be placed in BMC's newly improved half street to service our parcel. This end can be achieved by simply eliminating a portion of the sewer line currently planned to lie in Saddlebrook and relocated into Cienega, as per Exhibit A from my submission to all of you earlier. By doing so, BMC would service their needs and not require us to disrupt the integrity of the newly improved half of Cienega when we develop. In spite of BMC's attorney's threats in the letter in Exhibit C, the City Council does have discretion to condition applicants' approval in this way. In an earlier submission to the council members for the May 19th council meeting, we proposed that BMC would be required to reroute their sewer drainage. BMC's objections were summarized in their email dated April the 30th to us in Exhibit B. They did not challenge that this was a better solution. Their objections centered about money and delay. We've analyzed these objections. Number one, BMC estimated it would cost $15,000 to redesign the simple reroute. We are prepared to bear these costs, provided BMC allows us to engage their engineers to effect these changes. We've already met with their engineers and identified the plan sheets that would be affected. Two, BMC estimated it would take 2 weeks to make these changes. We estimate it would take half a day to update BMC's plan sheets, incorporate the required changes, and make them available for all to review. Again, we will pay for these revisions. Three, BMC estimated it would take 2 to 3 months for these changes to be approved, resulting in a delay to their project. City staff has reassured us that these changes are minor and can be approved over the counter without outside review. City staff has indicated these revisions would be treated as a priority to be reviewed and approved on an expedited basis. Four, revisions are already specifically addressed under Section 4.A of this item A10 on page 6, and it reads, the city and subdivider may mutually agree upon change to the improvement plan subject to the security requirements in Section 3 herein. 5, cost is not a factor. In their email, BMC's Chief Operating Officer, James Fletcher, characterized this sewer line in Cienega as being a minor expense. This is, to quote him, this is way more expensive to me than the cost to you to add a minor amount of additional sewer line in Cienega Road. 6, recently, BMC has forbidden their engineers to deal with us, even if we were to propose a freestanding, independent of BMC solution. City staff directed us to deal with BMC's engineers to effect a solution. When I spoke to the principal engineer from Whitson, he transmitted he was not allowed to deal with us in any way. We've dispelled all of BMC's objections. Why is there still a problem? Why has there been no movement on this issue since April the 30th? BMC doesn't want to cooperate. They feel they can design their sewer drainage without regard to neighboring parcels' needs and the city council has to approve these designs. If it means that the community will be negatively impacted down the road when Cienega will be torn up again, that is not their problem. And according to their attorney, the city council has no say in the matter. In Exhibit C, she states, "We are not obligated to make any revisions to our plans, nor does the city have the discretion to require modifications to accommodate Dr. Sywak's demands." If the city council has no discretion, why is this resolution in front of the council? Is it not the city council's function to look out for orderly development, non-duplication of services, and overall inconvenience to the community? Somebody has to stand up and require BMC to make common sense changes.
Do we have another speaker?
Marty Richmond?
Thank you very much.
Hello, Marty Richmond again from Hollister. I would just like to point out, and I'm a little confused here, if we determine that we didn't properly notice this, I do not think, I know it's after the fact now, but I do not think you should have taken any of that testimony prior, because if it was not properly noticed, that means somebody somewhere, maybe not the people who are here, didn't get noticed. There may be someone else who claims they weren't properly noticed, and therefore they weren't aware of that testimony and they didn't get the benefit from it on the previous item. And I'm a little confused now, a little worse, because the city engineer said that these are standalone items, and now one of the people who said they weren't properly noticed on this seems to believe that these are all hooked together somehow, because he's talking about the same thing. So I recommend, just to protect the public, that you also table this issue until you can determine whether or not that these are independent of each other, or when you vote on one, you're actually voting on both in some way, shape, or form. I think it needs a good legal analysis, and I'm sure the the city council is capable of doing it, given some time to look over all the periods and the T's. I would recommend to the people involved, just to protect the city, since everybody believes they're here to protect the city, that they send their objections in writing to give the legal counsel and the engineer's report time to look at them, rather than just say, somebody sent me this in an email. I'm sure we're all honorable people, but somebody sent me this in an email doesn't mean that's their legal position. So my recommendation is you also table this item, because it appears to me that at least one of the folks involved, maybe more than one, believe that these are related, because he's asking for changes in the sewer line. And I have no dog in this fight other than to protect the people who live in the city and will be at some risk no matter what happens. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other speakers?
I'm sorry, she had everything on one. Christine Breen.
Christine Breen.
Good evening again, council members. I'm here on behalf of Alex and Ingrid Sywak. I'm here to request on their behalf that you approve Benchmark's final map, but that you do so on the condition that they consent to relocate the Saddlebrook line to Cienega Road. If you don't include this condition, Cienega Road will have to be torn up twice within a very short time period, causing unnecessary disruption to the existing neighborhoods, as well as unnecessary costs and duplication of infrastructure. This tentative map came before the Planning Commission back in December, and when it did, it came before the Commission without a sewer plan in place, so that when it was approved by the Planning Commission, it was approved without any sewer plan to be considered at the hearing. Interestingly, at that hearing, Mr. Cady, Benchmark's representative, stated, and I quote, City Engineer Rubsick made it very clear that whatever the solution is, it is going to benefit the entirety of that area. Since we are the first ones in, we are going to do the heavy lifting and put in the backbone. So Dr. Sywick's property is going to get taken care of, close quote. Unfortunately, when the sewer plans finally were issued several months later, we learned that that was not the case. Benchmark's reasons, according to their COO, was that it was no longer in the best interests of the project. The Sywicks have offered at their expense to have the engineering plans revised to relocate the sewer line to Cienega. We've taken steps to meet with the city engineer and city manager and confirmed that the revisions could be accomplished in the field and expedited in-house to eliminate delay. Unfortunately, thus far, Benchmark has rejected these offers. Why? They state that it may jeopardize their business plan. And I guess it's true that very few, if any, of their shareholders will be inconvenienced if Cienega Road is torn up twice. But many of your constituents will be inconvenienced. Approving the final map with this condition will not result in a delay. We've already had to put off the reimbursement agreement consideration for 2 weeks. But keep in mind that even if you approve the final map tonight, the city must wait for the 15-day appeal period to run before it may issue any entitlements. We are confident that with Benchmark's cooperation, the proposed engineering changes can be made and submitted for your review prior to the June 16th meeting. I recently had the pleasure of lunching with Mayor Velasquez, where he shared some of his priorities for leadership in the city, which included working together to solve the city's problems and asking developers to meet the community's needs when designing its projects. That's precisely what we are trying to do here. So approve the final map, but condition it in the best interest of the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If I can I? Oh.
I'd like to hear from our city manager first, and we'll have you up.
Thank you. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, Michael, you're up.
I appreciate Mrs. Breen bringing up those terms. I 100% stand by what I made at the Planning Commission. I am doing exactly what I said I was going to do. I'm bringing in a sewer improvement that's much larger and serves beyond my project. I am doing that. Dr. Sywick's property is going to benefit. We are putting sewer all the way down San Benito. We're putting it in Promise Way. City staff made sure that we put a manhole at Cienega in Promise Way to make it easier for Dr. Sywick to improve his property when that time comes. So I think it's completely inaccurate to say that I'm reneging on my word. I am not. The city wanted a different route. I agreed to that different route, and I'm going to pay for that different route. And that route is going to be for a benefit of projects beyond mine, including Dr. Sywick's. Instead of being on Cienega, it's on San Benito, just the other side of his property. So he's getting taken care of this. He simply wants me to pay for his portion along Cienega, which is above and beyond my obligation. That's what this is all about.
Okay. Is there any questions from council?
I don't have any questions.
Councilmember
Well,
Friend?
I do, and it would be the last speaker. Looking at the revisions that are Exhibit A and Dr. Ryvick's presentation, the amount of footage of pipe that you have to put in the ground would be the same, and we're only talking about tearing up Cienega Boulevard one time.
I've already been through 2 plan checks. All right? I just cut a check to the city for over $200,000 to get my final map approved. Okay? Where we have it on Saddlebrook is on a non-public road. Dr. Sywick has to cut up Cienega when he improves his project. It's going to happen, and he's going to have to repair it, just like any other developer would have to do.
Well, I think
Okay, and just so you know, with Dr. Sywick, I probably have 30 consultant hours that I have paid for on his behalf. He has met with my civil engineer, and I'm assuming he would capitulate that point. He's met with my joint trench consultant. He's been to my office at least 4 times. He's requested that I underground stuff on his property. We have been beyond cooperative with time, in money, in unreasonable request. I've lived up to my word. I can look you in the face and say, I've acted honorably.
I am not questioning
I-
anything.
but I'm just,
Sir,
I'm giving you some
sir,
context.
Sir, hang on.
I have a question.
Councilmember is speaking to you.
Sure, right.
Councilmember Friend.
My question is, why would we, there's a difference between your sewer line, main
That's
sewer
correct.
line, and the doctor's laterals that he would have to put in 6 months from now. That's not tearing up Cienega. That's putting a
And you know
lateral.
what, there's a solution to that, and I totally agree with you. The solution to that is that Dr. Siwak hires a civil engineer, could be his own civil engineer. I think he's already talked to the city about this. Get his improvement plans approved, all right? He doesn't have an approved project, but I think the city will let him move forward via an indemnity agreement and allow him to put those improvements in right now. So if he's willing to do that, he can get those improvements in right now. It's on his own cost. The city's willing to accommodate him, and he pays for what he justifiably should pay for. So there is a way for him to achieve that. But he wants me to do that. So if it's truly an issue, he has the ability to do that.
If I can jump in real quick.
Please.
And so, as Mrs. Breen stated earlier, David Rupzik and myself met with her and Alex, I'm not sure what day it was, a week or so, 2 weeks ago. And that's exactly what we had stated. We recognize that it's probably not the best thing to have Cienega torn up twice. We also recognize that there's probably some efficiencies to scale to have Mr. Siwak install his sewer line at the same time as, say, everything else was being done at the Rakovich property. And he was willing to, at that time, as he stated just momentarily ago, that he was willing to pay $15,000 or pay his fair share. I thought that was the solution that we came up with. I asked David to make sure that he prioritized that plan check so that as we're recommending moving forward with the final map, Alex Siwak can have those plans drawn, have his line be installed at the same time as the rest of the infrastructure. It was not going to have any burden whatsoever on the Rakovich development. It was going to be a for sure thing. There was nothing that was, there was no unknowns at that point. We were going to run the line exactly where he wanted it. And again, this is a piece of property that's in the county. I don't believe there's an annexation application in there yet, but don't hold me to that. So this property is at least a couple of years probably behind the Rakovich property. But it is true that David said that we would go ahead and we would plan check that as quickly as possible, just to make sure that we didn't hold up either Alex, the construction, UPC. It seemed to be the solution that was it seemed like the easiest solution. We didn't have to get involved with whether or not using other engineers. It was just going to be a standalone project. I got a call 10 minutes later from Ann Hall. Mr. Siwak was down there talking to her about it. She just wanted to get an idea about what we had just mentioned because she hadn't heard of that. Brad had, our city attorney, Sullivan, had conversations with him about executing an agreement that basically said that by putting in this sewer line doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be receiving entitlements. We wanted to make sure that we're protecting ourselves. But again, I think that this issue can be addressed between the city and Mr. Siwak, independent of the city and the approval of the final map, which I think is going to be our recommendation tonight, is still for the city council to approve the final map without any additional conditions, because it can be accomplished. And David's here too to answer really any of the engineering concerns.
Ms. Breen, if you could come down to the podium.
I think in all fairness, the rest of the story, which I advised Mr. Avera of, and I think some of you council members, is We absolutely thought that was a great solution, but in order to expedite and eliminate a duplication of efforts, it would make the most sense to have the plans drawn by Whitson Engineering, who is Benchmark's engineer. My clients are willing to retain them independently and pay for them on their own dime, and after several efforts of trying to reach them, Whitson got back to my clients and said, Benchmark is refusing to allow us to work with you. That's why we're at the impasse we are now.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions from council? And Mr. Patty, was it?
Katie.
Katie? Are you able to work with them? Is this something that we can, our night's going through, my wife's waiting for me to have dinner.
And
I'm still talking about sewer hookups.
I've got a wife and 2 kids myself, and I've been dealing with this for a year and a half. Dr. Siwak controls his own destiny. I am not going to put the improvements in for him.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Can you work with him on this? It sounds, I heard this earlier, this is the best solution. I'm hearing agreement from everybody except for you right now.
Yeah, here's what I will do. We will let Whitson Engineers contract with Dr. Siwak for those improvements. What I am not going to do is I am not going to install those improvements. Dr. Siwak can have a separate agreement with the city and install those improvements. So yes, I will 100%. And by the way, Dr. Siwak has had plenty of contact with my engineers. And just to know that there is a distinction between items A9 and A10. A9 is simply a reimbursement for one of my improvements, and it should have no bearing on the approval of my final map. I've met all the obligations of my final map. So to answer your question, is just I'll be more than happy to let Dr. Siwak contract with Whitson Engineers. I'm not going to put them on my improvement plan set. I'm not going to bond for them. He can do that on his own. He's perfectly capable of doing that. He's an experienced developer and has the resources.
Is this what we were talking about?
Yes.
Council? Yes.
So,
You agree? Engineering agrees? I think we're all moving forward here, right?
Dr. Siwak shall put in his own improvements.
It's all on film, so we're all...
I'm good.
my only question is, what is the point of reduplicating a line?
Okay. Well, we're gonna move forward what we just talked about here. So, if, please come to the podium. Let's just be clear on all these things. I don't want to have these conversations again in another
We're not redoing that,
few weeks.
that square part. You're building a chase.
We're putting in our own
Right.
line. This is to prevent Cienega from being torn up twice. So what I'm hearing is that now Benchmark will allow Dr. Siwak to deal with Whitson Engineering to have his own plan drawn up. I understand that you're not, I understand that you've written lots of checks for millions of dollars, probably out of your own account. This is not what I'm
Please,
talking about.
Ms. Breen, please address the council.
I'm talking about my client being able to work with Whitson Engineering beginning tomorrow if necessary so that we can expedite this and really in the best interest of the community, not the best interest of their project.
Sir.
To clarify, I agree. Dr. Siwak shall contract with my consultant. The city will be in charge of processing. Dr. Siwak, he has his own separate plans, and he will be responsible for building that portion of the sewer.
And
I would
we
have
will-
agreed to that a year and a half ago.
And we will make sure that in that agreement that it's not or it's not confirming that your approval of a subdivision and an annexation at some point in the future.
Okay, last issue. Is there any notification issues on this item?
No, this is different. This is really the act you have before you on this is the adoption of the Subdivision Improvement Act, the agreement. The approval of the final map is an action that's taken by Dave Rubsick, the city engineer, as long as it's in conformance with the tentative map's approval.
Thank you very much. Kid Council.
I'd like a final comment, since everybody's been able to comment 50 times in violation of our rules. but you can change the rules however you want. I object to this entire process. I believe, I'm not a lawyer, but I believe that these two items are inseparably hooked together. We're talking about the same thing. And one of them, we're talking about the plan, and the other one, we're talking about the reimbursement of the plan. So apparently, the lawyer says, you didn't notify me when it suits them. And when it doesn't suit them, they go, it doesn't matter that you didn't notify me. The problem is, there are other people out there. There are other people who have an interest in this. I don't know who they are, but they're out there somewhere. The fact they didn't show up tonight doesn't matter because they weren't noticed. And I believe anything you take tonight, any action you take tonight on this where they're related, which it comes, and it all is going to be related to money, because that's all I hear about here is money, is going to be subject to challenge by someone who did not get noticed. Okay? I believe this is no way to do business. This is the way we got in trouble the last 500 times. We tried this mess, and I think you've made a terrible error if you do vote on it. You want to get an agreement? Fine. Lock the two parties in a room and don't let them come out and use the bathroom until they've signed the agreement. But there's no place to do it is here when people say, well, I remember I said this, and I remember I said that. And there's nothing in writing, and there's no way you're going to be able to sort this out. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Counsel, can you please make sure we're clarifying?
Yes, and I don't like to get in an argument with a gentleman who can argue in a newspaper. But they are completely different, Mr. Richmond, because we have a reimbursement agreement that, as Ms. Breen pointed out, impacts other developers who will be using these improvements, this infrastructure that's being constructed by Benchmark at their expense, and we're reimbursing them. The final map is a ministerial act by Mr. Rupsik that he makes sure, from an engineering standpoint, it fits with the tentative map approval, and it's something like giving a building permit. The discretionary act on your part is the developer either puts all of the money in right now, or what they do is, in this case, they're coming up with a subdivision improvement, which they're bringing in a third party who will assure that those items are made in conformance with what the city engineer has approved, so that you're protected that halfway through the project, Benchmark doesn't go away and leave a half-developed set of infrastructure. So the act that you're doing is that you're looking into the financial assurances of Benchmark and their insurance company, and it's contained in the subdivision improvement agreement. So they're showing that they've got the money and they've got the approval and they've got the necessary bonds and sureties.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Is there any other?
I got to tell you, that was a great explanation, and I hope everybody understood it.
And then you whisper, my whisper underneath was,
So
did anyone get that?
Let me clarify this, and I think when we spend an hour on a subject, I think it does deserve some time to review and make sure we are correct. Now, both of these items do seem to be tied together, and if one is calling for notice, I do agree there might be an issue there. Obviously, there's some disagreements within the parties involved that need to be squared away. So the council, if there's a motion to table, if there's a motion to move forward, it's up to the council here.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve 810.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
No.
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 Mr. Mayor, if I could address a couple of items on this agenda item. Number one, there's been a lot of information shared here today between these folks here, both private developers, and until I see something in writing, I can't move forward with approving any of this. So I don't see how, maybe our city attorney could put all that together and bring it back or maybe we could see something from the developers. I don't know what it needs to be, but to sit here and listen to this back and forth dialogue between everybody here is a concern to me, especially if it's not here in writing right before me. I have plenty of other concerns, especially considering I do believe that the items somehow intertwine, and I think that is a valid argument, and I don't see the problem delaying this until the 16th. If there is an issue with that, then please let me know, but I don't see that happening right now. And I do also want to say that I do realize that benchmark is...
Councilmember Gomez, since we did make a decision on it, I think we're going to have to move forward on item A11, so there's no more discussion on it.
Well, there is going to be another discussion item on the community financing facilities district later.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
I want to
Well,
make sure we're following the rules.
I'm not going to talk about the item then. All I will say is that benchmark, I know you spent a lot of money, but you did not spend $1.6 million in impact fees that were saved because of the lowering of the impact fees a few years ago. So I just want to make that statement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's move forward to item A11.
Mr. Mayor, I have two speakers' cards. Keith Snow. Thank you, Chief.
Council, once guys did not who's going to do the mayor? Any questions? I need like a little feedback. The mayor. I'm for the mayor, but like, is it artist or do you know anything or any knowledge or?
I'm sorry, Mr. Snow, I didn't.
I said, do you know to do the mural?
Do we know the mural?
And I know that the mural's on the agenda. Do you know to do the mural? Like who's the artist?
The artist, I don't know the gentleman's name. There's a rendering of it there on the wall there.
Huh?
It's a veteran that's working with the American Legion. American Legion will be paying for the cost of it.
And I know like the design, what it look like.
That's the design there on the wall.
Oh. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Councilmember Friend,
Maybe I can explain how we got to where we are.
please.
A month ago, a young artist, a veteran from the Iraqi War, his name is Philip, and I cannot pronounce his last name, so I'm not even going to try. Came to me with this drawing, and we discussed it, and I took it to the American Legion and asked for their backing to pay for this drawing. And because there hasn't been a formal process on how to approve murals such as this on city project, it comes before the council. This is the rendering that would be on the Monterey and 3rd Street wall that would be done if it's approved by the city council.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mr. Snow? Okay, thank you. Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to approve resolution 2014-107.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0 vote. At this time, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Chief, can I see?
At this time, we're going to resume the meeting. We'll move forward to item B1.
Motion.
Well, I'm sorry, one speaker's card.
One
Keith
speaker
Snow?
card. B1, I want to ask one question with city manager, you, Victor, Robert, City, Richard, Pauline, and also, what's on the expenditures? $10,400, right? 7 cents, right? Do you know what that for? See, you guys put something in your agenda, but I'd like to know what's it for.
For which number? What?
On B1?
Yes, so
Is
what
there
part?
Mr. Mayor, if I might, on his speaker's card, he has written, he wants to know what the $10,000
For 10 times 400.
warrant register was for.
For,
The majority of that was transferred to payroll.
see, that's all I did now. Thank
Correct,
you.
Mr. Miller?
There you go, thank you, sir.
Thank you. There was a motion. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, who made the second?
Councilmember Valdivia.
Thank you. Then who motioned?
Councilmember Gomez.
Oh, sorry, okay.
All in favor, 5-0 vote. Thank you. Move over to item C1, public input. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
Keith Snow?
Good evening, City Council, kind of late. I got a date, I got a phone call, I need to go after this. I want to see for the other ones on the agenda, but I gotta go. The one thing I want to tell the guys about, you see a letter that be in this Friday's paper about, because you know, I like to go from mayor. But one thing I want to ask you on expenditures again, right, for payroll or the overtime, or the prior overtime, that's my question. On there, once you guys ask one question, I looked it up to all of it, because when we read the article, but this Friday's second page, pay alerts. On expenditures, Peter, you guys, all you guys should be aware of this. I talked more earlier today, before the meeting. It says $120,000 blank. That's a lot in there, $120,000. It says $10,000 for chicken supplies. It said $4,000. And I did that uniform company, big and tall. Most tall people that we have in the city. And then it has $1,000 here. I laid the second one over there. It has another one, T-ball.
Sir, you can talk on any item not on the agenda.
And
So you can, Mr. Snow, please, you cannot speak on an item on the agenda.
But non-agenda. It's not agenda.
Okay, you can state anything you want about something that's not on the agenda. You cannot talk about what we just voted on.
But no, sir, it's called freedom of speech. You cannot take my 2 minutes away. You do your panic, people talking against the law, right? See the song? That's against the law, right?
Mr. Snow, I'll repeat it for you, so I'll give you another 3 minutes. So let me repeat the public input. Mr. Snow, please. Let me repeat this real quick so we're clear on this.
Non-agenda items.
Public input. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that state law, this is very important, please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking any action on any item not on the agenda. So please, if you have a question on something, a statement, that's fine, but we can't talk about something that's on the agenda. Okay?
But what's on the agenda? We talk about, I have a right to speak where I want to speak, freedom of speech. You cannot take that way. So, points, right? You go to the brand act, you be there all day long today, right? Against the law, municipal court, whatever it's called. I have a right to speak where I want to speak. So, like, wasteful spending, right? Right? Wasteful spending. You guys do proposal contracts, right? You guys, I get careless. I mean, how you spend so much money, wasteful spending. How all this money got spent, we got make me as a taxpayer, and all these people must see that represent, right? Because they see my flyers, they see go door to door. I type at the POD on the computer, but you have to tell me what to say as a feast, be following my conscience, right? That's not right. For Victor, right? You guys should know all this. I mean, it's a real crime, Westwick. I mean, it's a crime. I want to know, like earlier, right? What you guys say all through all. Chuck and the agenda can appear. I want to see for $25,000 for some war company. on E4, right? $25 for war company. When you guys voted, you guys jumped the gun, let people vote for the war treatment plant, right? And wasteful spending again. Judgment calls. But you tell me, tell me what to talk about. I free speech to talk at 3 minutes to talk. But what gets me, all you guys, what you guys do, you guys, 100, or you got under my, I got that. Or expenditures. I not check the expenditures. I just mean right here, got no expenditures. So what you guys do wrong? My catch. It's called leadership, leader. So what you did, I'm going from help being here, right here. I'm here for the people. I'm going for that chair you're still on. I mean, it's this big and it's piece of parent. But believe me, I'm very knowledgeable around multiple companies. All this money got spent. You guys talk. What you do wrong to people, you guys didn't communicate with the people whatever parts you guys do. But what gets me is all the waste spending you guys do every day is ridiculous. Don't you guys have heart? All the money you guys spent on handling, and you guys got caught this time, and it will be part of this paper called free speech. So, Victor, you may be mad what I wrote earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Snow.
Okay, well, can I go 3 minutes?
No, you already went your 3. We gave you
Brandon,
3
thank
additional
you.
minutes. Thank you very much. Item D, we have no
Well, I'm
business.
sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have one more speaker?
Joe Love.
Got ahead of myself there.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Well, I'd like to go home, too. Been on the road for 17 and a half days. Memorial Day was the 25th of May. Just to let you know, there was 6 riders from the American Legion post here at Post 69. They went to the wall for our respects to our fallen veterans and also to keep alive to bring the remains for those veterans home. Well, on my on my trip back, I got an email, the urgent email about something that's coming up. And one of the things is I know that you're not going to be talking about things that's not on the agenda. 2009, I have a record here from 2009 all the way to current. The American Legion and the VFW has had the Veterans Hall on the 4th of July. Independence Day. Does anybody know what Independence Day is? Independence Day is what our veterans fought for. So therefore, now that I understand that the veterans cannot use the building which they're helping to take care of because of some plan that's been drawn up to cut off the use of the building. The offer was made to us that, first of all, the money that we make off the building, we don't get any of it. That goes right back into the building. So 5 times a year we have an opportunity to make money. It's been slammed in our face on the 4th of July. And the veterans are upset about it. Because number one is that when the building is rented to a person, and I called Delia to verify that who has the building has the courtyard. And the issue is here that somewhere along the way somebody gave the building to the rally promoter, which we didn't find out about it until after the rally. Actually, we found out before the rally that that wasn't the case. It was just arbitrarily given to him. The American Legion VFW signed for that building last year, and it was taken out from underneath us, which is wrong. We still had the building. It was in our name. We did all the documentation, all the paperwork to do the stuff at the building. Not happening this year. Reason being is that somebody doesn't want to pay the money. We've offered to step down what our profits would have been and have them pay that profits for the use of the rental of the building, and the money that we would have been make off of that weekend would have went back into the building. Which totally amazes me that, you know, that's just not right to the veterans. You know, we're going a long ways with the veterans in this community. We've got so much things going right now, so many things going for veterans right now in this community, that this isn't the way to treat us. And for a man to say to me today, well, I'm sorry, the veterans are the losers. What kind of deal is that? We're not losers, we're winners. We're the reason that these people have freedoms. You know, we put our blood on the line, but for a man to say, veterans are losers, yeah, we're losers right now because we're not going to make any money off of this rally, except for the part that we did last year that we've done for the years in the past. My contention is that we need to relook at what we're doing. I made a comment to somebody in the staff last year in August that the contract that we signed, there was definitely a problem. And here we are, June 2nd, the problem's still there. And I think that we need to really start looking at how we do business and start taking care of the guys who fought for our country. And
Thank you.
thank you.
Do we have other speakers?
No.
No. Item D, we have no business. Item E, 1, public hearing. At this time, I'm going to open it up.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, do we have the speakers, the comments? This is the ones we dealt with the last time, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On May 19th, the City Council held a duly noticed public hearing to introduce Ordinance 1098, an ordinance to pre-zone 22.38 acres for future annexation into the low-density residential performance overlay zoning district, and also with some open space zoning as well. Staff was directed by the council to schedule a second reading of the ordinance for today, June 2nd. Pending approval of the ordinance for the pre-zone of this property by the City Council tonight, staff will then forward the application to LAFCO for their review and process of the annexation. Therefore, staff recommends read by title only and adopt ordinance number 1098. I would like to say, and I would like to mention that the public hearing for this item was open and closed back in May 19th during the first reading. I would like to indicate that I made a mistake when I agendized it for tonight. It should have been under ordinance and not public hearing, but if you would like to open the public hearing today, you may do so as well. But I apologize.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to open it for public hearings. Are there any speakers?
No.
This time, we'll close it for public hearing. Sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve E1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0 vote. Let's move forward to item E2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On May 19th, the City Council held a duly noticed public hearing to introduce Ordinance 1099, an ordinance to pre-zone 1.98 acres for future annexation to the low-density residential performance overlay zoning district. No development is being considered at this time. Staff was directed by the City Council to schedule a second reading of the ordinance for today, June 2nd. Pending approval of the ordinance for the pre-zone of this property by the City Council tonight, staff will then forward the application to LAFCO for their review and process of the annexation. Therefore, staff recommends read by title only and adopt ordinance number 1099. And as Abraham mentioned before, if you wish to reopen the public hearing, you may do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This time, we'll reopen it for a public hearing. Any speakers?
No.
This time, we will close it for public hearing.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance number 1099.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0 vote. Thank you very much. Move forward to item F1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is requesting approval of two resolutions. Resolution number 2014-108 is a resolution of the City Council authorizing the mayor to execute an annexation agreement with Mr. Robert Infelice for the 22.38 acre property that was just pre-zoned with Ordinance 1098. And then the second resolution is resolution number 2014-109. It's a resolution requesting LAFCO to initiate proceedings for the annexation of the territory. Pending approval of these resolutions by the City Council tonight, staff will then forward the application to LAFCO for their review and process the annexation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any speakers? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve resolution number
Second.
214-108.
And 109? 108 and 109?
Yeah, 109.
Motion and second. All in favor?
All right.
No.
Aye. Motion carries. 5-0 vote. Move forward to item F2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is also requesting approval of two resolutions. The first one is also for the City Council to authorize the mayor to sign and execute the annexation agreement between the city and the applicant for the 1.98 acre that was just pre-zoned with ordinance 1099. And resolution number 2014-111 is a resolution requesting LAFCO to initiate proceedings for annexation. So with that, staff recommends approval of these resolutions.
Are there any speakers?
Motion to approve Resolution 2014-110 and 111.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 5-0 vote.
Thank you.
Move forward with item F3.
Yes, Mayor, this is two resolutions which would, one, adopt the goals and policies for community facilities districts, which are Belarus. And the second part would be the resolution of intention of the landowner to establish a community facilities district. This also is related to the A9 and A10 items, which the parties who kept us busy from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock are no longer here. But this is not specific to that project. What this does is it brings the city up to date on the Community Facilities District, which is a vehicle that, with the revisions to the Belarus bonds over the years, has become the preferred method to finance landscape and lighting districts and some improvements, which allows for the city to set up bonds which can be set up in such a way that they will go up with inflation, so that the city will always be in a position to have sufficient funds to pay for the subdivision improvements. What this does is it sets up the goals and policies of the city, and we drafted those as broadly as possible so that you have the most, yourself and our staff have the most flexibility in putting items within those, and then they can be addressed by the real estate within the development, that they are responsible for it. So you're not doing what's been done in the past where you'd had like community service areas or districts that need Prop 218 votes and they don't go on. We have the consultant who has been retained again by Benchmark to basically bring the city's community facility district ordinance up to the 2014 changes, and he is here to answer any questions. They go well beyond what Paul and I, we've come up to speed on it, but this gentleman, Mr. Angelo, is here to answer any questions about the nuts and bolts of how these districts would work.
Do we have any speakers?
No.
Do we have questions from council?
I have a question.
Come up, please come up.
Yeah, hi, I'm Greg Angelo with DFA, and as was mentioned, that we were hired to assist in the preparation of the special tax formula and the rate and method of apportionment document that outlines how the program would work for future projects that annex into it to fund all their landscape and lighting improvements and what have you.
Councilmember Scatini, you had a question?
Yeah, I do. I have maybe a couple of them. This is similar to these other situations we have with other constructions in in the county, in the city, I mean, and also in the county. Am I correct on that?
Yeah,
Where there's a fee collected?
There is a landscape lighting district that exists in the city. That's created under a special assessment statute. And then there are also Mello-Roos districts in the city for police and fire, which is under a special tax mechanism. And this mechanism is also under that same special tax district approach. So it's similar in function to those.
That's on the new homes that
Yes.
this company is starting to build. My other question is this. Is that an increase yearly or 2, 3, 4 years? Does that increase?
Yeah, the way it's...
The fees increase?
Yes, the way it's structured is it will have an automatic index that's associated with the construction cost index. So as it costs more to maintain those improvements, there's an automatic adjuster that adjusts along with those cost increases each year so that it can stay on track with any cost increases that are incurred.
Okay, and that's on certain, within a project area, do certain houses are more than others, depending on the landscape and lighting and so on and so forth?
Yes. So
I'm correct on that?
Yes, as it's designed to adjust for that. So if a project comes through and it has more landscaping or higher costs to maintain, then the cost, the tax would be higher. If another project comes through and has less to maintain, then the cost could be lower. But it's structured so that it can be adjusted project by project.
Individually?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay.
Any other questions from council? What is the lifespan of these?
In perpetuity, no term on it. As long as the city has any maintenance to cover, it's in place to cover those costs.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a motion from council?
Make a motion that we approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 5-0 vote. Move forward to item F4.
Thank you very much for adopting that. That helps.
Yes, it does.
Okay, Mayor, council people, this item would be approving a second amendment to the Veolia contract that for the operation and maintenance of the wastewater treatment plants. On April 21st this year, the council received a report from staff and from Veolia regarding this proposed amendment. This item is being brought to you so that we can actually approve the amendment, and it will also do a supplemental budget appropriation of $25,000 so that the additional cost will be covered for the June of 2014, which takes us through the end of this current fiscal year. So if you have any questions, Manny Molina from Veolia is here. He's our operator, and the area manager, Sachin Chawala, is also here if you have any questions for them.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers?
No.
Questions from council?
Yeah, I'd just like to go through, take a tour of that plant, which I tried twice after you spoke the last time and wasn't able to make it. But I can go out there any day and ask for a tour of that plant. Okay. And the other question I have is the blowers out there. The company from Canada. You want to come to the thing, please?
He has a great answer for this. Yeah, that was his answer.
That project has been a thorn in my side. You know, like the rose has a thorn. Well, this I got 2 thorns, one on each side. I didn't like the idea the very first time. I didn't like the idea about the solar panels at that time, and I don't like the idea of paying $100,000 a year to do the maintenance on those blowers. And I was told that they came from Canada, and that Canada is the only one who could do the maintenance on them. So it's kind of like a monopoly. And I'd like to look at different blowers or whatever, because I'm sure there's something out there that can beat the price of this outfit from Canada. Can you explain anything to, or do you have any knowledge about that?
Yes, Councilman Scatini, I do have some knowledge on that. And you are correct on many points that this is effectively a maintenance monopoly on these units. The plant has two applications of those blowers. There are 4 blowers on one side of the plant and 5 blowers on the other side. The application of 4 of those blowers are actually quite a very good application. And the engineers properly applied to the more efficient units. However, that did lead to this monopoly of service, and the maintenance, in fact, goes from Canada through Korea. We just had a unit returned that had to go all the way to Korea to be repaired. That's the bad news. The good news is the $100,000 that the city put forth, I believe February this year, $101,000. More than 50% of that was consumed. And so there was a significant return on the city's investment there. Last year, it was approximately $82,000 that was expended in maintenance, and the year prior to that was just about $60,000. So the return has been fair. If you're looking at, it's approximately $9,800 per blower that the city's effectively insuring, because they are blowers that Veolia, even local providers within the Bay Area, and if you can only imagine the amount of industry in the Bay Area, that they are not authorized to perform this, is an exclusive agreement with Neuros Blowers through the Korean company. With that being said, it is what you have. They are going to last many years. However, the city engineer has asked us to investigate, when we begin approaching capital replacement time, what are the options. Veolia has staff working on that at this moment in time, because of the other 5 blowers that have been more problematic because of their starting and stopping versus the continuous operation of the 4. Veolia will be recommending that the city move forward with replacing those Rolexes, if you will, blowers with Timex units, in that they are a bit less expensive. The maintenance can be either performed by Veolia staff, which with approval of this amendment you'll be paying for already, and those repair activities that are outside our skill set and setup can be handled locally within a Bay, at least through Bay Area providers. And what we're looking at is, and the reason Veolia is considering this is we are looking at the offset of approximately $60,000 in insurance savings, maintenance insurance savings. If we went with the lesser unit, yes, they might use a little bit more power, but they are certainly not going to use $60,000 more a year in power. And so it's, but the other 4 we would recommend, in fact, that you keep. But at that point in time, it'd be roughly $40,000 a year. So again, they are good blowers in the right application. 4 of them are correct. 4 150 horsepower blowers are correctly applied. 5 100 horsepower blowers could have, a little more consideration could have went into that when you considered the maintenance cost. Mm-hmm. So we are working on that, and probably within, quite frankly, close to or shortly thereafter your next June 16th meeting, we'll have an initial report on our recommendation to the city. That being said, I don't believe you would want to replace them very quickly because you have so much money invested into that capital. But as they begin going beyond their capital repair, we would then recommend making those changes to, again, going from your Rolex to your Timex.
Can we trade them in and get some money back?
Well, you can get a lot off the material. The material has a lot of magnesium in it, and just the scrap value is significant.
Great. Well, thank you for that.
You're very
That sounds encouraging.
Is there other questions from council? We talked at the last tour I had of the facility a few months ago. I think a portion of this is for the start the dewatering. You need another person out there.
Mm-hmm.
Is
That's
that correct? And that would help us save between $2 to $3 million for what it would cost us to remove that sludge wet.
That is correct.
Okay. Is that person have to be certified at that level 4, or can that be a city employee working along with your company?
It could be. We prefer that it be Veolia just because we have control over that person's performance or lack thereof that we might not otherwise have with the city employee. So our cost incorporates that person being a Veolia employee.
What is the price for that one person? What was the amount? We're talking one employee for that facility.
Roughly when you add in the benefits and obviously profit and overhead to that, you're pushing $96,000 for that employee.
Okay, there's still room to talk about that later if that comes up.
Well, the answer is yes, there is room.
Perfect.
If the city would like to renegotiate what we've presented, we'd be glad to redo that. However, we would charge this first month what we've intended to charge until we...
Yeah, I think not for this year, but I'm just thinking for the future if there's something we can do there. Thank you. Again, thank you for the tours you provided me both times. I'm impressed by the ideas you have out there to save money, the actions you've taken to save a lot of money out there.
Well, thank you. And again, as much as I'd like to take full credit for that, it has been a collaborative effort between city staff and us, them prompting us to think of new opportunities for savings, and we've been able to act on that for them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions from council then? No? Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 5-0 vote.
Thank you.
Move forward with item F5.
Thank you, Mayor. Back in 2000 and probably the first part of 2004, the city of Hollister entered into a statement of intent with the San Benito County Water District, Sunny Slope County Water District, to come up with a long-term water supply and master plan. Most of the projects that were identified, well, that later turned into an MOU between the agencies. And right now, with the sort of start of the construction of, or we're well underway in construction of the LESOP facilities, and we're doing the design work for the West Hills. It's about time that we actually start planning for phase 2. We talked about having a new long-term master plan kind of adopted or started by 2015. In order to do that, we need to get started now. So again, this is really, staff is just requesting that the mayor is hereby authorized to enter into an SOI for a new agreement with the other water agencies, which will then hopefully turn into a new MOU, which was kind of the basis of the last arrangement, the last collaborative effort between the water agencies and the city of Hollister for a long-term master plan for water supply and treatment. There's obviously there's a lot of work that still needs to be done as state mandates change and whatnot. So this is kind of just step one.
Okay. Are there any speakers?
No.
Are there any questions from council?
I have a question. I'm not in support of this. I don't believe the city of Hollister should give up the right of giving San Benito County Water District sole control over the city water. I don't like that and didn't like it before, and I'm not going to support this. That's my comments.
Okay, are there any other questions from council?
Just really quick, Mr. Mayor, is this being worked through governance?
Yes.
Okay.
It's essentially how the governance committee started.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? What is the, if they're not providing the service we're expecting for our citizens, what is the way out of this? If they're not, the other agencies aren't performing their...
Well, I think there's a couple of things. You know, we are still the distributor of water. I mean, the city of Hollister has a water department. We have a billing. I mean, we are, you know, for at least half of the city, or probably a little bit more than half of the city, from Memorial Drive essentially west. That's our responsibility. This is really about how the quality of the water that's coming in from the surface water. As you folks know, you know, our systems are tied, so Sunny Slope, we kind of go back and forth. Some of their water intrudes on us. Very rarely do we intrude on them, but it does happen. West Hills is kind of that joint project to make sure that all of our water is at a certain level. And again, we are still responsible for you know, the TDSs and what's happening to the plant, the type of effluent that we're sending to the plant. We know that, you know, things are changing all the time, and all we're saying is that we need to evaluate, you know, based on our current growth rates, because I think there was assumptions made back in 2004 and 8 about what our growth rates were compared to what they are now in 2014 and 15 and 16. So those are just some of the things that, working collaboratively, that's what we do. As I mentioned, I mean, it makes sense when we do these water plans, whether we contract with an independent firm, whether the City of Hollister does it, whether Sunny Slope does it, whether San Benito County Water District does it. I mean, if we do it all together, it's generally a savings. Otherwise, we're all doing it independently. And I think, again, it's kind of how the governance committee started. I've heard nothing but really kind of good things out of the governance committee. Where we are now is a lot further than we would have been individually. So I don't have a lot of history there other than, you know, basically at the last governance committee, this was something that was talked about. This is something that we should be looking forward to keep that kind of group going and making sure that our citizens, whether they be county citizens, Sunny Slope citizens, or city citizens, that we're all receiving the best water quality we can.
Councilmember Valdivia?
Yeah, Billy, this is to renew the MOU we already have with the districts?
Yeah, for the
'Cause
most
we
part.
did this a long time ago.
Yeah, because the MOU that the agencies entered into before is essentially you've accomplished all those goals.
Yeah, we did.
Right? Now that those goals are accomplished, it doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't things that we need to continue doing. And again, I think it's about making sure that we as a group try to obtain those same goals and try to lessen the cost of those things. So.
I agree, because I would support this, because I think that we need to continue to work together.
Yeah,
with all
and
the
again,
different
the
entities.
SOI, the SOI is really just kind of to let everybody know that we're all looking forward, moving forward to actually developing the MOU, which is probably the document that holds more teeth.
Okay, okay.
So for the public, SOI?
Statement of intent.
Okay.
Sorry.
I think, you know, you're pointing out some really important information, because going at it alone is incredibly expensive, and the state is constantly changing the requirements of the water, the way it's treated, without contributing to that fund until we can get some people up there in Sacramento that can vote and then pay us. We're kind of stuck down here.
And if I may just make another real fast comment.
Yes.
I mean, it was real difficult to get to this point, believe me, at the beginning. When I was elected, it was really, just to get the bodies to work together was a big challenge. And it was a big milestone that we met, and I would definitely hope that everybody will approve this. I think it's really important for the city.
Okay. Any other questions from council then? No? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve Resolution 2014-115.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No. Motion passes 4-1 vote. Move forward to item G1, report from city council members regarding committees on which they serve. Councilmember Gomez?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So last week we met and we had a special Council of Governments meeting regarding the Regional Transportation Plan and public comment period. So I just wanted to disclose that. And I also do want to mention that this morning I met with VTA staff and a few VTA board members, the South County Cities VTA Committee in Morgan Hill this morning regarding the 152 realignment. So it looks like there are some interested parties regarding the 152 realignment through San Benito County. And I think the biggest news out of it all, and this may be a shock to a lot of folks here, but it looks like we have a potential financial source has been identified for a possible toll road between the Zanger flyover and the Santa Clara San Benito County line on Highway 25 for that realignment. So they haven't made themselves public yet, and so I'll respect their desire to stay behind the scenes right now. But it is a $1 billion project, and it will turn the segment of, or the scope of the actual project is now from Highway 25 101 intersection interchange currently. It will redo that whole interchange. It will improve that interchange there, make it a flyover to Hollister, create another interchange at the county line on Highway 25 with the new 152 realignment coming to San Benito County, and with the possible toll near Casa de Fruta, and then with another one on the other side near the reservoir. So those discussions have initiated again. As you folks know, I work for a council member in San Jose who is also a VTA board member, so I'm working, kind of wearing two hats, doing that. And but it looks like Santa Clara County may be passing a transportation tax measure in November. It has a lot of approval with Santa Clara County residents, and that has an impact on us because they are lacking $8 million in environmental work for that project, and that could potentially help pay for those $8 million that are needed for the environmental impact report closure. So with all that said, the discussions will continue, and the Council of Governments will also be involved regarding that project, as it will have an impact on our county. So I just wanted to disclose that and share that with the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Valdivia.
I'll pass.
Councilmember Scatini.
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Friend.
No, nothing at this
I have nothing to report either. Let's move on to item G2, any informational reports from council members. Councilmember Friend.
No, there's a report coming up on the rally committee, that's all I was
Councilmember Scatini.
Nothing.
Councilmember Valdivia.
I have something to report. I just want to make a public announcement that I will not be running for another term. When I'm done here, when my term is over, it'll be 16 years. 16, I can say wonderful, challenging years. I'm working with my different colleagues in the city council, with staff, and especially the community. I really appreciate the support that the community has given me over these past years. And I finally made my decision, and I will say a little more when the time comes in November or in December. Okay? Thank you.
November. Councilmember Gomez.
Yeah, thank you, Pauline, for everything that you've done for our community. I do want to just quickly thank staff for getting the work done at the Whale Park. I know that we wanted, obviously, to have some solution there to that issue. So I want to thank staff for that. Obviously, we have some other stuff to work on, but I do appreciate the prompt response there, Billy, and please share that with Clay and staff. I also want to thank David and the rest of the team for the improvements in downtown Hollister with the enhanced crosswalks, or the high visibility crosswalks. Obviously working with pedestrian safety and those issues for the city of San Jose, all of that makes a huge difference to pedestrian safety in our downtown area. So it's a start, and we look forward to moving forward with other projects in the downtown area. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to remind everyone, tomorrow is Election Day, so please make sure your friends and family get out there to go vote. City Manager.
First things, let's see, we won't have a meeting before the Father's Day weekend, so I want to make sure everybody remembers the air show. I think that's going to be an excellent event this year. Kind of piggyback what Victor was saying about the whale park. Yes, we went out and we did do a little bit of a resurface out there for safety of the kids, but we also noticed that part of that concrete out there is failing. So next year during the off season, we will be coming to you and looking at replacing a lot of that concrete at the expansion joints. I don't know if you've taken a closer look at it, you'll see some sections of it actually are basically settling. So we're going to remove those sections, and then we will put a more permanent sort of a finish on that, something that's more water park sort of friendly material that's actually made for that. So that'll be probably after Labor Day of this year and before the Memorial Day of next. I would also like to say that I have been working with Adelia, who came to the council along with some neighbors about the renaming of Hazel Street. I believe the mayor asked for a brief report. We've come up with a couple of names. We are going to, I think there is a desire to actually look at a few more options. As soon as I have all of those, we'll prioritize them. We'll get them to the DRC, and we'll make sure that from a public safety perspective, they work. But that should be coming to you on the June 16th meeting, I hope, for a formal name change. And then my next request for June 16th will be to have the City Council consider the canceling of the City Council meeting on July 7th. That would be the Monday after the 4th of July. What that will do for us, a couple things, is the couple weeks before the rally, obviously, some of us are relatively busy, some more so than others. But at the same time, we have a number of employees that have hours, administrative hours and stuff that are if they don't use them, they lose them, and they end up trying to take off that period of time anyway, just prior to the rally. So I know I'm not asking for consensus here, but that's an item that you will probably see on the 16th agenda. So, and that's it for me.
Thank you very much. City Attorney?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Chief?
What do we pay you for?
Just two items. I had the pleasure of attending the State Mat Awards on Saturday with about, I think we figured about 2,000 other police officers. There was 180 officers that were honored, one being Detective Wells. I believe this was third state award in 4 years. Made us very proud of his efforts and the rest of the officers' efforts in that arena. So it was a good night. Two, I'm a member of the Red Ribbon Committee here locally with the San Benito County Behavioral Health. And I had the opportunity last week to sort of brag about Hollister and San Benito Street, and I think I've convinced them into bringing the Red Ribbon Run back to Hollister. It's been away for a number of years because we just didn't have a good place to do it. And so I think, I've actually been talking to the mayor about this, that we'll be able to bring that back on October 11th of this year for downtown Hollister. So we'll ask the city to join us as partners on the committee, and we'll have more in the future on that. Should be a cool 5K race.
So I should start training now.
You should, all of you should, yes, all five. Thank you.
See what you get for asking these things.
I just want to ask you, are you going to be in high heel shoes?
No, not that day.
Well, you might want to tie it into a red ribbon.
City Clerk?
Thank you. I just want to remind anyone that wants to close a city street for the 4th of July, they need to submit an application to the city clerk's office no later than June 5, which is this Thursday. The horse show parade will be on June 26th. You adopted resolutions for that earlier this evening. And then the kiddie parade and the fireworks will be on July 4th, street festival July 19th, and Relay for Life August 2nd and 3rd. Busy summer ahead of us.
Busy. Thank you very much. Let's move forward with item G3, report from Measure E Committee.
Evening, Mayor and council members. I am your staff on the Measure E Committee, and I would like to bring up one of our Measure E Committee members, Mr. Doug Emerson, to present our first presentation of the Measure E Oversight Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. First of all, I am not the chair of the Measure E Committee. We don't know where he is, so I'm going to wing this.
And according to the local paper, I run it, right? I run the
Maybe I didn't read the local paper. I think everybody's aware that Measure E passed in 2012, I think it was. It took effect April 1st of 2013. So we're about 1 year into Measure E. Your report has some historical background, some facts about that one member put a lot of time in about impact on our police department and our fire department, and then a chart on historical spending of the general fund. I think some of our first meetings, we struggled with a couple of items. And the one is, I think we struggled with the fact that, and I think you all know it, that Measure E funds really get transferred into the general fund. So it's not where the city sets up their budgets, their revenue and expenses, where here's a Measure E expense. And I can speak to why that happened. When Measure T came into effect, basically the general fund had a $3 million deficit, and it didn't make much sense to be paying people out of Measure E and then have that go away, and who are you going to lay off? So I think we have a clear understanding now that those Measure E funds come in, and then at some point they are transferred to the general fund. I think the point that we clarified questions in the beginning was, what was the purpose of Measure E? And my recollection, and I think the language that we dug out, was that at the time the city had an austerity plan, and that austerity plan would have gone into effect had Measure E not passed. So Measure E was not put on the ballot to increase services. Rather, Measure E was put on the ballot to retain the services that we have. Measure E is a general tax, which means that you can't specify it for an individual item. You can't specify it for police and fire. Going into, just to summarize some of this, on the second page, there's a chart that actually, it was Ken Johnson, who was originally chair of our committee, appointed by Councilman Gomez, took a lot of time pulling this data out from the police and fire department. And I think, without going into all the numbers, I think the intent there was to show two things: the impact on those two departments. If you just look across at the number of calls that come in, I'm looking down at, say, grand total without parking citations for 2013, 2,500 of them. So there's a severe impact, I think, what that shows on those two departments. On the next page, in some of the narrative, I think something that all you council members recognize is that, especially in our police department, compared to other cities, we are understaffed, tremendously understaffed as to where we should be. On this chart here with all the little numbers, it came about, I think, as we struggled with trying to identify Measure E expenses and the fact that they're transferred into the general fund. To look at expense, we really have to look at expense of the entire general fund, because that's where those measures, or that's where those taxes go in. I think the committee is kind of under the assumption that Measure E was passed to stabilize, to keep the status quo. So I think what we will be looking at, that chart that's presented there has expenses for the general fund, It shows every cost center in the city, and then down at the bottom, it has the yearly expenses. So if you go across, it goes back to 06, 07. General fund expenses of a little over 14 million. The next year, 14 million. The next year, 15, 15, 13, 14, 14, and so forth. So I think what that shows is that since 06, 07, the expense of the general fund has been pretty stagnant. It's been pretty constant. The last number is for the first 6 months of this fiscal year. It's not exactly Measure T, but it goes from July 1st to December 31st. That number is $8 million. If you double that, that's 16 million. So one thing I think the committee is going to be looking at over the years is what happens to those general fund expenses. Are they going up tremendously? We recognize that there is going to be an increase this fiscal year in expense of, I think it's $1.2 million, something like that, just due to the contract fire services. Our expense is going to go up by 1 million or 1 million too, but there's a revenue that offsets that, so that we know. And with that, I'll try to answer any questions you have. Frankie's here with us. She's also a member of the committee. If there are any questions.
Do we have a speaker?
Sorry, Marty Richmond?
Marty Richmond from Hollister. Obviously, I haven't seen the report, but I don't want to comment on the numbers in the report. I'm sure they're accurate. But what I would like to, I know that this is difficult because the committee members are busy and there's a lot to do and there's a lot of numbers there. I would like to suggest that maybe in the future we could also have a section in the report that would deal with where the money comes from. I'm amazed sometimes I talk to people in the city and the voters, and they simply have no concept of where the money comes from that the Measure E is funded with. And so, when I'm not talking about just some general statement that, oh, it comes from sales taxes. I'm talking about more specifics. For instance, the categories, and I know you get a quarterly report that we already pay for, and we know that, for instance, the service stations here in town are an enormous generator of sales or taxes for us, and we have comparisons of how much taxes our service stations generate versus other California-wide, and the same thing for restaurants and so on and so forth. So people talk about, oh, well, we'll just, we'll just stop using gasoline. Well, okay. For all of you that know that there's a proposal at the state to start charging you by the mile because people are not using enough gasoline. I think you've all heard that, and it's a serious proposal. It's not just something somebody threw out. They're going, okay, gas taxes are going down. We'll start charging people by the mile. I think it's important for people to know in the community where the money comes from, so they know what funds Measure E. And the idea that everybody will stop using gasoline has some kind of impact besides the environmental impact. It also has a tremendous impact on our ability to collect taxes. So I know that's a big job, but I think it would be important for people to know, and since the data was already there for much of it, from the HD, I can't remember their name, HDL, thank you. From the HDL quarterly reports, I think they're quarterly, it wouldn't be that difficult, but if it was in the report, then people would pick it up. Hopefully, when they read the report, they will get to that section. I appreciate your time, and I thank the committee and for the report.
Thank you very much. Are there any other speakers? Is there any questions from council?
No, but I do like Marty's idea, and that's information that we gather on a quarterly basis. I don't think it should be that difficult.
I would say if the council wants that, we can put that in there in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, depends on we would have to discuss at what level of detail you want to get that information, but there's probably 8 general categories of revenues, something like that, maybe 7. We could do that, or we could break it down. One of the problems that we could try to explain is the way the city gets their money from the state is not always, okay, here's the sales tax that's paid and here's the sales tax that comes back. There's a thing called the triple flip where you get money over here as opposed to being over here. So, but we can come up with that. I think, but I didn't mention the good news on there. I just asked Brett, I think a number is wrong. But on the very last page, we put in the Measure E revenue going back about 5 years. And we started off, I think, with around less than, I'm going to say less than $3 million in revenue the first year of Measure T. The last fiscal year for 12-13, the number was $3.9 million. And I remember when I was on the council and we were talking about this, we were looking for maybe $3.6 million. But things have changed, I think, in the economic community. And I wouldn't be surprised if Measure E brings in over $4 million this coming year. That's good news. Okay.
Thank you very much. Let's move forward to item G4.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back on April 21st, the City Council approved an item which would call for bids for the Industrial Wastewater Treatment Facility Energy Efficiency Project. We had a little presentation, and the idea was to get bids that would install oxygen sensors and VFD drives at the industrial treatment plant. The benefit of that project was that the cost for energy would have been about halved. We put the bids out. We had a original opening date scheduled for May 9th. We had a pre-bid meeting on May 5th. During that meeting, I heard a lot of concerns about there not being enough time for contractors to get materials for the project length that was specified in the bid documents. We revised the bid opening to May 22nd. We added additional 4 weeks of construction time, and we opened bids. Well, we intended to open bids on May 22nd. However, no bids were received for that project. This doesn't happen very often. There's usually somebody out there that would be willing to do the construction project in the manner that what we were asking. Because there was no bids, that gives the city an opportunity. Well, it's not really an opportunity, but it's a result of having no bids, that we will be able to go and find a contractor as a sole source, someone that would be willing to do the project, that we would negotiate a price with them and be able to get the project done. It's still something that we need to get done. It's a project very worthwhile, and it will benefit the city and the company which pays for the energy out there, San Benito Foods. We have, our plan is to, and I've received sources for contractors from Scotts Valley, Watsonville, and Veolia Water for contractors to talk to, and that's going to be one of the things that I'm going to be doing this next week. As an alternative, and this is something that I spoke with the AMBAG Energy Watch people about, would be that the city purchase the equipment and then have a contractor install it. So, the plan is to really find a contractor that will do the work. They'll purchase everything. Everything would be under the contractor's warranty. And we'll be working with San Benito Foods and AMBAG and Veolia Water to get this project implemented. Our plan is also to, once we get the negotiated contract with a contractor, is to come back to the city council to actually award a contract. I'm hoping to be able to do that over the next week or so that we might be able to get to you prior to the second meeting in July now, which would mean the second meeting in June, on June 16th. That's going to be a goal. It's going to be real tight to get that contract done. However, what I really wanted to do is give you, the council and everybody, an update on what the progress has been on that. Had bids been opened and we had actually bidders, we would have been to you tonight to actually award a contract. So I'm available for questions, if there's any.
Are there any speakers? Any questions from council?
So, yeah,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. So, David, really quick, you said that there were folks interested, but they didn't feel that they had the proper time period to get their information together, correct?
That's correct. We, the concern was that they wouldn't have enough time to construct the project in the time frame that we would have without having to pay exorbitant expediting cost for the equipment. We answered all their questions. We actually put out 3 addendums to make sure that all the questions were answered, and we tried to let them know that we do need bids on this, and we did have a goal to meet. Still nobody bid.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, no other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move forward with item G5, update or report on the motorcycle rally.
Thank you, Mayor. I was, I see a lot of folks in the audience, and I'm not sure who's filled out speaker cards, but we put this on the agenda just in case.
I think I'm going to excuse myself to make sure that there's no conflicts.
Oh,
I know it's not an issue of voting, but just make sure.
That must be nice.
Okay, then you proceed.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I wanted to have just something on the agenda just in case we have an issue, as we had discussed a couple months, our last meeting about the Vets Hall and the HDA and how the relationship worked for the renting of the hall, and we'll get to that. But I just want to let everybody know that as far as the rally is concerned, from the administrative side, I think everything's moving along nicely. We have a website up that gets everybody, all the vendors and food vendors, and it basically explains how to get the proper permits. It talks a little bit about going through the process of getting building permits. So it's set up very similarly to the way we do the air show. Mike Chambliss was a huge help in putting that together. So I think unless Brett has anything that he wants to say from our perspective or from the administrative side and planning side and building, I think we're pretty good. If Dave can just take a minute and talk about his, and then I'll let Mike come up and just give a 30 seconds on fire too.
So the city manager's asked me to put together the city's public safety stuff for the rally. We've had 3 official meetings and several, actually many other meetings. We're all on track as far as planning for the actual event itself. Met with all the department heads for the different services that we'll need during the rally, and it appears that we're all on track as far as that goes. Actually, probably way ahead of schedule this year. I don't have any major concerns right now. The biggest issue is the historical issue that we've always had, especially for police officers, is that it falls on the 4th of July, and many cities and counties have events on the 4th of July, so sometimes getting resources for those is difficult as far as manpower. But again, we endeavor to be ready and fully staffed for this event, and that's really all I have.
Okay.
Council, as far as the fire portion, we've done a lot of planning with law enforcement out there at those meetings. We'll have AMR doing the first aid out in front of the firehouse. We have signage that's being put up during the days of the rally to direct people to that first aid that will be out at the fire station versus in front of the Vets Memorial Building because of all the traffic issues. We also will have bike crew out there doing patrols, 6 bikes out there all the lit hours of the day doing first aid. So I think we got it pretty well handled on our side for the best that we can plan. And that's it. If there's any questions.
I have a question for you. In terms of you only have one location where you're going to be at through the whole rally, or are you going to be at one end of town and the other end? No?
The main first aid station will be in front of the firehouse with a tent and all the needed first aid equipment that AMR will provide and EMS. But we'll have bikes patrolling the whole rally all day long from 9 o'clock until dark. And we don't want them out after dark. So when dark hits around 9 o'clock at night, they will come back in. And we'll also be doing 4th of July patrol and fireworks patrol and all that during that period of time.
Okay. Any questions from council?
Not for Mike, but I have one for Bill. What's the website? What's the number?
Oh, is it Hollister? Where's Mark? What's the website again? The official website is thehollisterrally.com. And I want to also just reiterate again, Mike just hit on it real quickly, is that it is true that the 4th of July is on a Friday. It's part of the actual event weekend. However, we have Jerry's event is going on at Mays, the normal Hollister fireworks show, which leads me to my next thing, fireworks. We are going to be patrolling again. So, and now the fines are relatively have been increased substantially. let's say it that way. So I just want to let everybody know that just because the 4th is on a Friday and our guys are going to be busy doing things, they're not going to be too busy not to be doing the illegal firework patrol. So.
Yeah, and that was one of our biggest concerns last year throughout the community. I mean, that's.
I think we've heard.
We were all overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think we heard you guys loud and clear, and I know that that's part of the plan.
The fees are substantial.
I'd like to ask you, Mike, what are you going to do for illegal fireworks? Are you going to have extra people on for that?
I'll have 4 units out patrolling the community. They will basically patrol, looking for issues, looking for illegal fireworks, and also taking complaints and dispatching. Anything comes through NetCom that comes over and we need to respond on, we will. And cite and confiscate all fireworks. People don't understand that we have the right to confiscate anything that's illegal out there.
If I may, last year when you approved the budget, you actually approved an allocation for firework patrol. So what we're going to do is work in concert with the fire department with 2 patrol officers during those evenings as well. Yeah, it's a big concern. We have a higher fire danger this year, obviously. So we'll be out doing that. What we'll do prior to the event starting really soon is doing a public campaign about, of course, the fines and the danger of illegal fireworks use, as well as even the safe and sane ones around the dry areas of our community.
Okay.
Really quick, Vice Mayor. So my house faces straight down the street, Chief, straight into Ridgemark. And, you know, I got to say they put on a pretty competitive fireworks show compared to what Jerry does over here at the school. Has the Sheriff's Department approached any of you folks?
Met with them today.
Oh, wonderful. Okay,
met with
great.
Both of the captains, and we discussed the whole firework issue from Ridgemark to Orchard to all the other areas of town outside the city limits. on San Juan. And we also I'll be doing a little bit of a presentation to the Board of Supervisors on fireworks safety and what's illegal and what's not illegal.
Okay, and Mike, obviously, because I don't think Mike sleeps for days, right? Chambliss? Yeah, I'm sure he'll be up.
We don't think he sleeps at all, but no. Go ahead.
That's what he's doing right now, Gary.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Okay, anybody else over there?
I just want to make a comment that as the representative from the council at those meetings, I just wanted to comment on how well, with all the other things the city employees have to do and all the other groups have to do, how well Dave and the chief and everybody from Clay with Public Works and have helped with Mark's help getting ready for this rally and getting set up, except for the one issue that we know about. It's just been really a pleasure to see a well-greased machine work well. And I think it should be, the public should know how much effort goes into putting on this rally. There must be 50 people at those meetings, all with a different agenda and all with a different need. And at the end of the meeting, they all come together and it's going to work out. We have the time set, the map set, where the barricades are going to be, who's going to put them up, where the toilets are going to be, where the watering stations are going to be, where the first aid stations, where the police headquarters is going to be, the updates, everything is very well timed, and I think it's to a lot of people's benefit that, and thanks from the council on how well this is being taken off. Last year was great. This year better be better, or there may not be others. So we all know that, and I think everybody is really marching to the right tune and headed in the right direction. I don't see any flaws in the planning, and I think it should work off very well.
Okay.
Madam Vice Mayor, I have one speaker's card.
Okay, do we have speaker cards? Before we do that, any more from council? Questions? No? Okay, go ahead. Proceed.
Joe Love.
Good evening, council. I have questions about the rally. I picked up the map today. It doesn't look very promising for the Veterans Building. They got us blocked off all the way around on two sides. The alleyway doesn't do us any good because it's too far away from the kitchen. Our opportunity to make money for the veterans organizations is slim and none. Again, as I said earlier, whoever has the building has the courtyard. Last year we had the courtyard, last year we had the building. This year we offered a fee to the Downtown Association, and they denied it. They didn't want to pay it. They want to close the doors. And they only want to pay a portion of the amount. So therefore we refuse their amount that they want to give. So basically, the map that's drawn with using the courtyard, I think is null and void. Because if they don't want to pay the money for the building, the whole amount, then basically the veterans is in a position to go ahead and run a beer garden and run our food vendors as we've done in the past. So I don't know how. I talked to Downtown Association and also to the run coordinator and tried to come up with some sort of agreement, and I didn't like my answers that I got. And the thing is that it's the people that's going to win is sure going to be the community, and sure I'm quite sure going to leave here with some money in his pocket. If he doesn't, then he shouldn't be doing the job. But that's not for me to say. But again, when it starts stepping in, infringing on our veterans that we can take and make money off of, out of 5 times out of the year, that upsets me. We've painted the building on the inside. The chief of police has gone and put cameras in the building so that he wouldn't have to have his patrol people there because we can monitor what's going on inside the building, you know. And then our funds that we're going to potentially make isn't going to be there. They got us blocked off. If you look at the map, there's only one way into the food mart, and that's from the back street of Easy Street, or East Street. Or you can walk around the front of the building, but they don't know we're there. You know, we didn't budget for signage and stuff, but again, what we make off our food is what we made last year. You know, we lost out on last year because it didn't work out right. Again, you know, we don't want to get the short end of the stick again.
Okay, Joe, well, your 3 minutes are up, but I hope that before the time comes that you all will be able to work something out. And there's going to be a lot of people, I'm pretty sure everybody's going to benefit.
Well, I sure hope so, because I think that
A lot of people.
I think that our veterans shouldn't be the one that suffers.
No, I
You know.
don't think anybody should suffer.
You know,
Thank you.
and that
Anybody
was all
else?
brought up 2 weeks ago during a discussion, and for whatever reason, this council decided to shut the doors. I brought it up. I told you that was the only way that the city was going to, that the veterans are going to make any money. I also said what you've done is shut the doors. And the council in their wisdom has done it. There's no reason or no incentive for anybody to do anything different than what we've got right now. There's no incentive for the HDA to say, we'll give you the courtyard. We already signed the deal. I don't understand why, but we just shut the doors. So now there's not going to be the biggest building in the city, the biggest monument in the city, and the vets have been shut out of the rally. That's what the wisdom was 2 weeks ago, and I don't see any way getting around it now. It's too late now.
Mr. Mayor, I mean,
Did you
Vice
have
Mayor.
something?
I do, but we have speaker cards. I'd rather just wait till
Okay.
after.
Brenda Weatherly.
Okay, we'll go ahead and then we'll bring it back to the council.
Good evening. After last council meeting, we agreed, we sent a letter to the vets, VFW Post 9242 and the American Legion, offering to pay the rent that they would normally charge for the building, rather than the $12,000 that they wanted. So we just went off the rate schedule thinking that that was, you know, fair, and a fair rent is what they would normally have received in compensation for use of the building. I think we also have plans just to use the courtyard for a beer garden. And because of the amount of expenses they were for the air conditioning and the toiletries and all that, how $850 a day, we thought it would just be more cost effective to not use the building, so that we wouldn't have to incur that kind of cost and save the vets the money as well on the expenses to run that building during the rally. So that was kind of the thought process behind that. So just wanted, and I think you all received a copy of that letter that we sent them. Thank you.
Okay, anybody have questions for Brenda? Okay, thank you, Brenda. Any more speaker cards? Okay, we'll be bringing it back to the council, Councilman Gomez and then Councilman Scatini.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you, Joe, for being here. I know that you guys were off for a while and doing something very honorable, so we do appreciate it. And Ray, you know, thank you too for your input. Obviously, it does make a difference. It all comes back to me, it all comes back to one specific problem that we have. And if we didn't have this problem, we wouldn't even be having these discussions right now. And that comes back to the contract. HDA has expressed, maybe they expressed issues with it. Our staff and council, we've expressed issues with it. And, you know, ultimately, like I said, Joe has expressed his issues with the contract. And I have to agree with everybody. We do have issues with it. Now, to hold up an event or to hold up somebody using the facility, I agree with Councilmember Friend. You know, we don't want to just shut the doors. But at the same time, we want to make sure that our contract is clear on who could use the building, when they could use it. we need to make that clear, and the contract, to some, may be clear, to some, it may not be clear. I think it's very vague. We did a really good job of confusing people. And that needs to be updated. I don't know when we could do that, Billy, but we need to do that as soon as possible. For this year, there's two solutions on the table, I believe. One of them is to continue on, and if the HDA wants to pay the $12,000, they could do that and move forward and have the inside and the outside of the building, I'm assuming. The other option is to have the city council support that, which this council took up a few weeks ago, and that is to have the city pay for it out of their general fund and fund it for the HDA. You know, after seriously thinking this thing through, ultimately, as I said earlier, it comes down to a bad contract, and we need to renegotiate that immediately. So I think what we need to do now is, because we directed HDA last time to work with the veterans to see if you could find some common ground. That wasn't found. There is no common ground there, or at least none that was identified. I'm willing to support the city using the $12,000 whatever dollars out of its general fund this year to pay the veterans for the hall. I don't have a problem doing it this year, but between now and 9 months from now or 6 months from now, we need to renegotiate this contract. We need to look at this contract and make sure that all parties, the veterans that definitely deserve it, and the city council, we need to make sure that we're making the right decisions for our community, because it impacts all of you. This is important to everybody. It's important to you folks. It's important to us, because it has an economic impact on our community. And it has a huge impact, this rally does, on the HDA as well, which, as I stated before, I believe is the nonprofit arm of the city of Hollister. So we need to find a way to collaboratively work together and make sure that we don't have these disagreements in the future. If that contract was clear, we wouldn't be having these disagreements. So as somebody who didn't support it last time, I believe, if I'm correct, Brad, that I can make a motion that we move forward with allocating those funds for this year for the rally, and also direct staff to begin the renegotiations of the contract.
Point of clarity, Councilman Gomez, you mentioned 12,000 or 1,200?
Yeah, I don't know what the fee was. It was 12,000 something.
At the last council meeting, it was $12,225.
12,000?
225.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to make a comment. We kicked this around the last meeting. We discussed it probably for 45 minutes, and I don't see why we're here tonight talking about it again. The council voted on it, and we made a decision, so let's stand by it. I can't see the general fund paying $12,000. All due respect, Victor, I just don't see it. Yes, we need to change that contract, there's no question about it, but for now, we already made a commitment, and I personally am going to stand by what we did, what we said. I don't even know what we're talking about right now. That's my opinion.
Councilmember Valdivia, I need to clarify. Last time we met and when we discussed this item, we gave, I don't know if we could give direction to the HDA, but we advised the HDA to work with the veterans to see if they could find a different solution to this. That's why we're bringing it back, Councilmember Scatini. It wasn't, I didn't vote on it last time for the issue to die. I voted on the issue so the HDA and the veterans group could try to find some common ground. That wasn't found, and that's why I'm supporting it this one time. So I just wanted to clarify that, Councilmember, but I think you make a good point.
That's fine, but the way I look at it, we discussed it, We made a decision, and now sure, that's fine. If they could work something out, that's fine. But the deal was that the veterans get the $12,000 if they wanted the building. That's my understanding of it. I was here. I think that's
a lot of confusion as to what we talked about.
Yeah, probably
About the money, about who's doing what, who's paying what. There was a separate opinion offered by the acting city attorney at the time that was confusing to me. It wasn't the way I read it. And I even proposed exactly what Victor's proposing now, and that didn't go anywhere then. I would support it now because I think in the interest of getting this rally on and successful, I think we need to include that building. That building is a huge part of the rally. And I agree, I don't believe the city should be paying for it. I don't believe the city should have to pay to rent a building that the city owns.
That's right.
In the interest of getting this thing off and running, I think that's the only solution we can have right now with only being 3 weeks down the road. I agree with you that we need to seriously renegotiate this contract and make it clear, black and white, no uncertain terms, who does what when. And that, I agree with you. We didn't do that before, so that's why it's back before us, really. Because we didn't do our job the first time. We thought we did.
Okay, and I think that, that's good. Oh, I'm sorry, are you done?
There's a,
there
is a motion on the floor.
Yeah,
Is there a motion on the floor right now?
and a second by
Okay,
Councilperson
and there's a
Friend.
second in the motion. What's the motion? Can you repeat the motion again?
The motion was to allocate the $12,225 to the Veterans Group.
Okay, and there was a second over here?
Yes.
Okay, point of discussion. I have a question for Billy concerning the amount. Is utilities included in there and all? I mean, what the charge is, because doesn't the city pay the utilities and all that in there?
You know, essentially the money that's generated goes back into the building. But on the proposal from the Veterans Group was that there was a surcharge on the utilities portion of it, and I can't really remember exactly what it was. I think it was $850? It was $850 a day for sort of a surcharge for the power and other supplies.
Point of order.
Okay.
It's not on the agenda.
No, I understood.
And this is what I was going to address to the maker of the motion. It's not on the agenda, but I would say that I would ask you to change your motion to to direct staff to bring that back on the next agenda item.
Okay.
Well,
I don't think we had it on the agenda last time either.
You know what? Here's the better.
That might have been Soren. So
yeah. Here's the better solution I think that we have right sitting in front of me right now is that as confusing as the language is in the contract about the 4th of July, the one point of order that it's not confusing on is in a dispute, as it is in number 9, dispute resolution. It's basically up to the city manager. So what I am going to do is I'm going to put on my big boy pants and I'm going to have a sit down with the HDA and the Veterans Group, and we're going to resolve this without going to council, bringing it back. I'll let you know, and then we will also make it clear in the future. Okay?
I'll withdraw my motion with that
Okay.
statement.
Would you be willing to withdraw your motions? Okay. All in favor? All right, to withdraw. So we're gonna be bringing it back, because you're gonna be
No,
meeting with
we
folks?
won't bring it back, but I'm gonna come up with a resolution. It's a dispute. There's a dispute between the HDA and there's a dispute between the group that we've asked to administer the building for us or operate the building. It comes to me. I'll get it resolved, and then we'll move forward.
Yeah, and then also start working on looking over the contract to make sure it's gonna work for everybody around.
Yes.
So we'll be coming up with these kind of problems. Okay, then, we'll go ahead and do that then. And I think that's it with the valley.
That's it.
So somebody wanna bring in? Wait, the mayor has to come in.
Does he have to come in? Yeah.
We don't need, did you hear that, Ignacio? They already moved to close the meeting, but I go, wait a minute, the mayor needs to come in. Dun, 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 dun. give it to you, back to you.
Thank you very much. Items H, I, J, K, no business.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. 5-0 vote. Thank you very much.
I'll bring it down.
And good night.